Welcome to episode 99. It's raining outside, so I'm still in a cafe. This is about my mother meeting Cornelius Vanderbilt when she was a young girl in Shanghai and dancing tango with him at the Club Sportif, which is the French diplomats' club for tennis. She learned to dance tango from my grandfather, who started the club in Shanghai. This is sponsored by you. Want to help me continue this channel? Buy me a coffee. I put the link up above. It's also below. You can just click on it. What you can do is you buy me a coffee for €5 and $5. I'm sorry, and you become my drinking buddy. It can be a coffee or wine or beer, and then you're a drinking buddy. And I'm going to start putting some names up of some people who were kind enough to buy me a cup of coffee. Thank you, Jonathan Davis from Texas, for the cup of coffee. See you soon. Prepare. Thank you, Rafael Laura from Spain, for the cup of coffee. Fashion photographer. Thank you, Anita and Marco, for the cup of coffee from Mexico. Cornelius Vanderbilt was a world traveler and a journalist, and he wrote a column called Vagabonding with Vanderbilt, which was published in the major newspapers, in the New York Times, etc. And he traveled the world, and part of his travel was going to Shanghai. And when my mom was a young girl, and they met there, and they became good friends, and that was the beginning of them knowing each other. And then, of course, later my mother came to New York, and she became a friend of Gloria Vanderbilt as well, because Gloria Vanderbilt and my mom were both fashion models in New York. And they worked at the same agency. I think it was called Powers Agency. And my mom was the Marlboro girl in all the billboards. She's the one that got women to smoke Marlboro cigarettes, which was kind of ironic because my mother doesn't smoke, never smoked. So pretty crazy. But I thought it'd be kind of interesting to explain that. And as a result, when I was at University of California at Berkeley, Connie is his name, short name. He called me and he put me in his newsletter, and he said, "Come to Reno, Nevada. He says, there's an interesting thing going on up here. There's a divorce ranch, and it's where the wealthy women in the United States go to get a quickie divorce. It's called the Donner Trail Ranch." And he thought I might like it because I was a young guy going to Berkeley, University of California. And so I got in my sports car and I drove up to Reno, and I met him, and I was expecting a big mansion or whatever. No, he was living in a tract home, and a very small home. But around the home were all these microwave antennas and all this stuff, and I'm going, what is going on here? And he said, well, my friend's visiting me also, General Curtis LeMay, head of the Strategic Air Command. And unfortunately, wherever he goes, he has to take all this equipment with him to be able to talk to the president. And I went, okay. So I met him, and then Curtis was there, but I kind of met him briefly. And he lived in a small house, which is kind of like Elon Musk does. You know, he lives in a small house also and travels the world. And then we went to this ranch. It was pretty interesting. And I met this beautiful girl, and she's getting a divorce from her husband, young girl, and Cornelius Vanderbilt tells me, he says, well, her husband, if you remember General Motors, there was a company called Body by Fisher, and Fisher is the guy who designed the beautiful, sleek bodies of the General Motors cars, Oldsmobile, Cadillac, etc. And this was his wife who was divorcing him, and she's staying in the ranch. And what happens is the girls have to stay in the ranch for 6 months and be good girls, right? So they could get their divorce quickly. That was the way to get a fast divorce, and so that's why she was there. So I met with her, but she couldn't leave the ranch. She had to kind of stay there because her lawyers were watching, because, of course, the opposition would love to catch her in an affair or something, you know. So we just kind of had a nice platonic relationship, but she's a great girl. And then I stayed with Cornelius Vanderbilt in his house in Reno, and it was a 2 or 3 bedroom house in a tract home. And he's trying to, and I thought to myself, I said, God, he's trying to be inconspicuous, right? But not with all these microwave antennas all over the place and the military marching around the neighborhood. It was wild. But I had a wonderful time. So that was my adventure with Cornelius Vanderbilt. And a great guy, a lot of fun. And so that's the end of this episode. I thought you might enjoy this story. Okay. And I was lucky enough to meet him. So it's kind of a fun thing. So, and I'll talk a little bit about Sonostics, was my corporate sponsor. It invented a device you put under your feet when you're sitting at a desk, and it talks to your nervous system electronically. It's not a vibrator, and your brain contracts a muscle in your lower leg called the soleus muscle, and what it is, it's a pump, and it's actually the device we call it the heart partner because it aids the human heart. What it does, when this muscle flexes in your lower leg and the back of your leg, it puts all the fluids in your lower legs up to the top of your body where they belong, and it lowers your blood pressure and allows your heart to work better. And if your heart is doing better and your blood pressure's down, then your brain gets more blood flow, and as a result, if you use this machine maybe an hour a day or so, you get less cognitive decline. Cognitive decline, in fact, goes away after 6 months. So it's a heck of a device. And if you want to know about it, just call Bruce Badeau. He's at brucebadeauoutlook.com, and he can tell you about the company. And what we're doing is we're raising money for the company to take it worldwide. It's an existing company. We have the patent pending, all of that, but we want to expand the company and go worldwide, and we're looking for money and talent to do that. And Bruce Badeau is our strategic planner, so you talk to him. So that's my corporate sponsor, okay? And then you can buy me a cup of coffee if you like what I'm saying here. Why not? We're at a coffee shop or sidewalk cafe. Oh, and it's a beautiful day here, by the way. I'll just show you here. Yeah, nice. And if you want to help me for free, that's another way of doing it. You can subscribe to this channel. And there are other things on here besides my podcast. My podcasts are always marked EP, which is for episode. And then you can also see some of my tango videos. I like to dance tango. It's my hobby. But those are on the channel as well. So this is a channel. There are more things on here besides podcasts. Okay? But the podcasts are kind of fun. And the podcasts are basically, in a coffee shop or wherever I am in the world, and talking about things that I've done and what I'm doing and that kind of thing. If you find it interesting, buy me a cup of coffee. Let me know that you care and you're a good friend. And you can be my drinking buddy. And I'm going to put the names up if you like. You can be anonymous if you want, of course. I'll put the names up of people who bought me a cup of coffee and are my drinking buddies, basically. So thank you. So you can subscribe to this. That's one way you can help me. The other way you can help me is to ask some questions in the chat, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you've got. And you can also share this video to your friends to show them how crazy I am. Thank you. And then the other thing is, if you're on a YouTube application, this is everywhere. This is on YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook. But if you're specifically on the YouTube application, you'll see some end tags at the top, 3 of them. One on the top right is to subscribe, and it's free. All it does is notifies you when I do a new podcast. That's all it does. It's totally free. Doesn't cost anything. And then the one on the top left is a link that I will send you to that might be associated with this podcast, something that is follow-up on what I'm talking about here, or I find interesting. And then the third one at the top, at the bottom left, is a playlist. And the playlist is all my podcasts in a list. You can choose which ones you want to listen to. It says all the way down to 1. So you can watch any of my podcasts, and all that's free, okay? So the only thing that costs money is you buy me a cup of coffee, and $5, come on. Let me know you care. So this is the end of episode 99.